Welcome to Direct Supply's Continuing Education webinar series. Direct Supply offers monthly webinars on a variety of topics throughout the year. The topic for today is how to get ahead of technology failure. My name is Savannah Romans, and I will be facilitating today's meeting. Please note, the information contained in this presentation is intended to provide general information but not advice about certain regulations and initiatives. This is not intended as legal or other advice, and each situation may vary depending on the particular facts and circumstances. You should not act upon this information without first consulting with qualified legal counsel. Today's webinar will be presented by Michael Mueller, Pat Finley, and Nick Azarian. Nick is a project manager with 12 years of experience in construction and 6 years in senior living. In his role, Nick works with developers, operators, architects, and contractors to engineer and implement technology systems on new construction projects. His goal is to provide low-voltage tech systems that meet and exceed the functional needs and expectations of residents, caregivers, and other stakeholders. Nick's extensive experience working with and managing cross-functional teams helps him ensure smooth project deliveries. Pat Finley is a technology consultant and corporate account manager. Pat has 6 years of senior living experience with more than half of his time focusing on technology. Pat's role is to consult senior living communities, developers, and operators nationwide, helping them select, manage, implement, and integrate their technology needs. Pat's consultation focuses on solutions that go beyond products. It's all about helping you make educated decisions that are going to meet the needs of your facility, staff, and residents today, but also set you up for success down the road. Michael Mueller is our dedicated technology support specialist on the customer service team. Michael Mueller has been with Direct Supply in the customer service department for 6 years. For the last 2 years, he has served as the dedicated support specialist for technology. The systems Michael supports include, but are not limited to, nurse call, wander management, access control, intercom, and video surveillance. And now please welcome Nick, Pat, and Michael.
Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I really appreciate it. I heard that we have over 3,700 people attending today, so we are really excited to host everyone. What an amazing crowd. So I thought before we kind of dive in, I would really like to kind of picture this scenario for you, as it's something our customers face on a pretty relatively daily basis. So to start it off, it's 2 a.m. a day before a holiday. You get a phone call that one of your low-voltage life safety systems is no longer working. And per code compliance, as well as resident safety, it needs to be fixed within a short time frame. So you call your local IT team, if you have one, or you call your local installer right away to come and fix your systems. Upon emergency arrival, they tell you that your system is now obsolete, no longer supported, meaning you can no longer service the system or buy parts for it. Pretty bad scenario. You're now faced with a dilemma that is going to be causing a lot of stress and potential money that hasn't maybe been planned for your CapEx. So these types of calls are stressful for just about every party involved. It's stressful for when I have to take them, as well as the operators on the other side when they come with that type of dilemma. So we want to make sure that we utilize this time to provide you with the necessary tools and resources to ensure that this doesn't happen to you. So during the next 50 minutes to an hour, we're going to focus on tips that are going to help make sure this doesn't happen. So to start it off, here are some tips that we've created on our experience that we'll be sharing with you today. So tip 1 is choose a solution with scale. Tip 2, which will be covered by Michael Mueller, will be establish a champion user, as well as tip 3, identify your external point of contact for technology assistance. And then tip 4, which will be covered by Nick Azarian, schedule ongoing system checks and team trainings. And lastly, tip 5, standardize your communities. So starting it off, choose a solution with scale. What is scalability and why is it important? Scalability is the ability of a system to expand as you grow, as well as progress as your technology needs. And that's important for a variety of reasons. Some examples that we typically run into mainly is, hey, we're dealing with a 100-bed skilled operator right now. Just found out, the owner of that company maybe just bought 20 to 30 acres behind their property, and now they want to add a short-term rehab, or they want to add an additional AL or IL bed. And so making sure when you talk about scalability, right, we want to make sure that we're talking about setting you up with the proper components that are going to allow you to expand, making sure that we can have one system as you have multiple acuity levels as well. And that's what we want to make sure that we're focusing on. So technology is constantly changing and it's always evolving. So it's nearly impossible to understand what the future technology roadmap looks like. I mean, we have the ability today to really kind of look and see a glimpse of what is offered in the residential settings, meaning smart thermostats, smart speakers, all the apps that we have within our cell phones today. It's making sure, how is this technology going to adapt from a commercial as well as a senior living setting? And that's really what we want to make sure as we're looking at the scalability and vetting out different types of low voltage technology systems, you're keeping that in the back of your mind. So when we suggest when purchasing systems is really just to put an emphasis on looking for systems that are referred to as an open platform or having the ability to integrate into other systems. In layman's terms, willing to play nice in the sandbox. So as far as some open platforms, that could be a variety of things, whether that's a wireless nurse call system, access control, video surveillance, right? We want to make sure that with an open system that they're going to be willing to integrate into these types of systems, right? And they're constantly investing into their platform. And that's nice because what we can do is make sure that we minimize the 20-pound caregiver belt that your staff has on a daily basis and really streamline that into one device, whether that's through EHR, whoever that's going to be as well, who typically supply you with desktops or tablets, and just making sure that we download those types of apps. Yeah. So, Nick, I think before I kind of continue on, from your project manager and engineering standpoint, how important is scalability in your perspective?
Excuse me. I think scalability is of the utmost importance. When evaluating a system that you want to bring into your community, it's one of the primary things you should look at. So I'd break scalability down into maybe 3 separate categories. And the first one you mentioned, it's somebody simply adding additional beds. So it's an addition to an existing building. It might be a new building on its own or a remodel, but the ability to simply add devices and add total quantity to a system that you have. Most of these systems should be able to handle that, but it's one of the things you want to ensure when selecting one is that should we need to add 100 beds to our existing community, we can do so without any substantial, unexpected outlays. It's simply an addition of devices, not an entirely new system, not an entirely new head end or server. Just add devices, and that's probably the most basic example of scalability. All right. The second one would be the addition of features. So instead of simply adding quantity, a lot of these manufacturers are upgrading their systems year over year, and they're adding new features and functionality, and that would be a very important element to look at when considering scalability.
No, I think it's a really good call out. I even like to talk about number 2, right? Setting up with the server. It's pretty interesting to really make sure that when you guys are thinking about, how do we want to think about future growth is, I guess, probably the better way to do it. Making sure that from a consultation side, I'm most likely going to be the one asking you, what does it look like in the next 2 to 3 years or 5 years that are out there, right? And, are you guys looking to do any type of expansion or renovation, and making sure that we set you up with an infrastructure that is going to allow you to scale? Because there are other systems in the industry, right, that we see on a daily basis that, if you have 100 beds skilled, well, guess what? Those devices are maxed out at 100 beds. And so what you had mentioned before is making sure that when we set you up with the infrastructure, it's allowing you to add more devices as needed, as long as you guys are looking to expand as well.
Well, and I was just going to say, too, just from the industry as well, is that it's continually growing, right? The number of residents continually growing, the number of staff that you're going to need continually growing. So knowing that all that there is on the horizon is growth, are the systems that you have now and the systems that you're looking to get going to be there for you when you need them to be more than what they currently are? And I'm sure those watching this right now are already running into maybe some instances or cases where the system that they have, they're kind of hitting those limits, whether that be a hard limit of physical a physical hardware that's installed, or a soft limit of software that might not be able to be improved anymore because it's obsolete and there's just no more upkeep for it to do. So just something with scalability is not just necessarily what the system can do, but knowing that it's growing. You're going to need this to scale along with you, and then not only with the amount of people, but what you're looking to do. So how you're trying to improve or get down on your level of care to make sure that you're leveraging technology to optimize your staff, but also to provide that enhanced level of care with your residents to make sure that they're getting the care that they need, whether it be ADLs or, just nurse call, wander, all that. Just making sure that you have that built in so that you have that room to grow.
Yeah, no, that's a good call out. I'm sure most of our viewers today can probably relate that they don't know when changes in regulations are taking place, right? So making sure that we're setting you up with a system, open platform, again, that's going to allow you to add different features, right? Right now, the typical cadence, and I keep using nurse call system as an example, but it's probably the most relatable. You have call cords next to the bed, right? What happens if all of a sudden a new regulation comes out that they need to have a wearable pendant? How many calls do you think a lot of manufacturers are going to be getting because they don't have a solution that's going to allow them to offer that type of support and additional functionality? So it's good to kind of think about that. And then when we talk about improved efficiencies, scalability is right there with it as well. Earlier I talked about the caregiver belt, right, and taking the weight off because they're carrying 4 or 5 different devices. We want to definitely make sure that we're taking care of that. But there are other unique ways in which we can improve those types of efficiencies with scalability. Example, going back, what about if we just do a passive motion sensor, in a room and all of a sudden that's detecting movement, right? That's an additional feature that, hey, maybe we don't do it during the initial implementation, but you can add to it down the road.
Right, and that's actually one that we've seen quite a bit. You have a nurse call system, and those motion sensors, they may not be on that initial order, but later on down the road you add them. You said passive, which means it can just detect motion overnight and then send an email alert to the administrative staff in the morning if it doesn't detect movement by a certain time, by like 8 a.m. So it's a great way to improve your efficiency using the technology available to you. There's a third, before we get off it, there's a third factor for scalability, and that is the ability of a system, when you're evaluating it, the ability of a system to integrate with other systems. All right, probably a key component because, as you talked, the industry is growing, the technology is only advancing. So when you select a system, a technology, you want it to be to work for you years down the road. It has to be able to play nice with all of your other low voltage systems in your building. So the ability to integrate nurse call with wander management, intercom with video surveillance, and kind of on with all of your low voltage system is a key element, and it's one that a lot of the industry has difficulty with.
From your experience, how nice do people play in the sandbox with each other?
Integrations are the most difficult aspect of new project implementations. They absolutely are. Each and every one on their own, they're pretty easy to install. They work as they should. And then when you want them to kind of work with each other so that you can funnel all of the alerts for doors, for wander management and access control through your wireless nurse call system, that's where it can become challenging. And there's a variety of integrations that can happen. But that's usually because they're different manufacturers, and they're not necessarily set up to work with different systems. They focus on their own. So that is one of the main challenges we face. And when you select a system, you want to see how many integrations they have out there. What are you doing to ensure that this is going to work with all the other systems in my building?
Or can they integrate?
Or can they?
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I think our industry is made up of a variety of proprietary-based systems, right? And the only way for you to scale is to utilize their own proprietary blend. So I think by making sure that when we talk about scalability and talking about that open platform, it's that, hey, listen, you can talk to 4 or 5 different manufacturers that are all going to be able to integrate versus, hey, you go to one manufacturer and it's the only solution they can tie into today. I think that from a project management side, that'll help out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, as we kind of continue on to talk about scalability, one thing that we want to make sure that you focus on is when purchasing a new system, consider the immediate and long-term ramifications of doing so. I think what we run into, especially when it comes to the run to fail, which is a lot that we see in the senior living industry, the question you need to ask is, does it fix the immediate challenges you face today? As of right now, does my system offer reporting? Does my system offer auditing, right? All those different types of things that we should definitely focus on that maybe aren't always captured when it's a run to fail, because per code, you need to get that system up and running. Does it allow you to add features in the future? We talked about earlier about the motion sensors, right? Making sure that we talk through all that. And then can you support your new investment with simple software updates and replacement parts with original break fails, right? Whether that's wireless systems where you can remote access in, push updates, or some of those you don't even have to do anything and they just go out automatically, which is great. So some other things to talk about with scalability is understanding the typical tech life cycles, right? So when we talk about some of our systems, we always use the example of wireless nurse call systems. Generally the life you'll get out of those is roughly anywhere from 8 to 12 years. And that's not saying that you can't still utilize the exact same system that's in place today. It's really focusing on, hey, there might be an infrastructure upgrade, right? Technology's changing. Think about cell phones. There's a new cell phone coming out every 6 months. So when you think about life safety systems, that technology is constantly improving as well. And so making sure that, hey, maybe it's infrastructure, maybe it's reliability to the devices, maybe robust reporting, right, that are things that are missed at currently today. Those are things that we want to make sure are being hit on. And also, as a perfect example, and I know we kind of briefly talked about this on a couple of other systems, but even video surveillance. I can't tell you how often it is when we're talking about scalability and expansion of just thinking about the next what if, right? Making sure when you purchase a solution, maybe we order 40 cameras today. But I'll tell you what, once you get a camera in front of you and you start looking at it, you're like, you know what, I didn't even think about a camera in this location or a camera in that location. So it's really making sure that when you add an NVR or a head end, right, leaving some extra ports on there so in that way, in case that one-out factor happens, we can accommodate that for you.
Pat, I did want to ask NVR. That's
Network video recorder.
thank
you,
you.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. And lastly, just to kind of wrap up the scalability, think about what the open platforms as you guys are kind of evaluating a lot of the technology systems out there. Just asking yourself the question, does it fit the needs of today, tomorrow, and in the future? Today of, hey, this is what we have from an operations standpoint. Tomorrow, are we looking to expand in future? What is that future tech that's going to be currently being invested in with those solutions? So that being said, I'm going to hand the reins over to tip number 2. Mike, take it away.
Absolutely. So tip number 2 that we have for you guys today is going to be establishing a champion user. A champion user is going to be someone that is at your facility. They are part of your staff, and they're going to be the person that kind of is your first step. If something's not working correctly, or there's a system where there's a lot of, say, routine tasks or things that are going to need to be accessed on a regular basis. So having a person that's dedicated there to be the one that's in charge of knowing the systems, what they do, so knowing the names and what that corresponds to, like this brand name goes to a nurse call system, or this means wander, and how they kind of interact or how they play a part in the caregiving and how the staff interacts with it, and also to the residents. So that's important because they're really going to be, it's all about minimizing disruption, right? I mean, it's about minimizing your disruption, because the thing about tech failure is it's going to happen. You just got to embrace it, right? I mean, I know we've all lived through it, whether it be phone, car, all these systems here that we're talking about. Eventually it's going to happen. So it's about developing a plan to minimize that disruption to your staff, minimize that disruption to your residents, and also make sure that the plans you have for the day don't get derailed and, well, this is my day to fix this now instead, when you walk in the day with what you're trying to do. So having that champion user there that can really at least know what the systems are and how they're supposed to work, and know what are some simple things that can be done to minimize that disruption and keep things running smoothly, it's going to be an important thing. Another aspect of that as well is going to be, making sure you have a backup, right? A backup to the backup. So
Right.
cross-training is going to be an important aspect of as well of having a champion user. But not only that is, eventually they'll go on vacation. You got to let them, right? So making sure that there's some folks there that are also mindful or aware of that. That can be their backup, or pretty much just as many people as you can find that are willing or able. Just get them familiarized with it, get in front of it. Nick, I know from a project's perspective that what'll happen is sometimes the lag time between when a system is installed and initial training happens to when they start to use it. Are there
Right.
questions about the system in between that time?
Absolutely. So on a new construction project, you may not have, it's a new building, you may not even have all of your staff hired at that point. So it's going to be really difficult to train them all at that point.
Yep.
So you definitely want to ID your champion user and make sure that they are there for all of the appropriate trainings, because it's going to be a little train the trainer situation.
Mm-hmm.
The champion user is going to be the person you're building who knows the system best, and they're going to have to, then share some of that knowledge and teach some of the others as they come in. Sometimes a champion user it's not really selected. It should be. We'd prefer that it would be. Sometimes it's just that person selected by default. They happen to be the most willing to kind of grab hold of the system, the least afraid of this brand new technology and worried that they're going to break it or mess it up in some way. And so by default, that's the champion user. But when you're bringing new residents into a building, so there's always turnover. They're going to need to be issued certain things. For nurse call, it might be a wireless pendant. If it's if the resident is an elopement risk, it would be a wander bracelet. So there's different things that they have to receive, and somebody has to issue that stuff to this person and to that person's family. So oftentimes family members will receive access credentials as well. So that person who's going to be utilizing the system and issuing, cards and pendants and bracelets to residents and residents' family as they come into the building, that's your champion user, right? That's the person that knows the system best and is most familiar with it. Now, you had mentioned having a backup. Having a backup is vital. That champion user, you don't want tribal knowledge. You don't want that knowledge just retained within one individual. So it has to be shared in case you lose that individual, in case they go somewhere else, they do go on vacation, or they are out sick, right when you have 5 new residents moving in that day. You need to have a backup to your champion user. So one of the things I've experienced here, because we do a lot of backing each other up, is that I will be trained as a backup for something and not need to use that knowledge until like 6 months down the road.
But you remember.
Yeah, and by that time I don't remember any of it. And it's like exploring the system, whatever it might be for the first time. So I think it's really important that when you identify your backup, that you go ahead and involve them frequently in the use of these systems, so that when that person does have to utilize it, they're not afraid of it, they are familiar with it, and they can actually, do as close to what the main champion user can do as well.
Right. Now, you mentioned one thing I did want to just call it right out. You mentioned that fear, right, or that hurdle of the unknown, right? Just embrace it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, so being in customer service, I'll get calls from customers, and they feel, they don't have that level of comfort with the system. And I always remind them, it's okay. This will get done. It's a thing that was designed by humans. You're a human. We all have the brains. We can figure it out. Absolutely. And so really, it's not necessarily about trying to figure it out like it's a complex thing that can't be done. It's just, you just don't know it yet. That's all. It's just something you don't know. So, and part of that, how you overcome that hurdle, is by just familiarizing yourself every once in a while. You may have that person that always does it, and you may be the backup to that person. Well, you just get in the driver's seat once and just have that champion user watch you and make sure you go to the right place. But I'd say most things that are needed for that is for routine stuff, like administering credentials and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Just to kind of jump in a little bit, I mean, staff turnover, right? It's one of the largest senior living crises that we see today. And so making sure that we're just constantly having backups, I think it's paramount, right? From a consultation side, when I'm looking to help select features for select systems, right? It's making sure that when you have a champion user, you had touched on it, they know the ins and outs of the system. And it's making sure that as you have a backup to a backup, that throughout all these different replacements, that the features that were originally sold when the system was implemented 2 to 3 years ago isn't forgotten about. And it's incredible when you go back and you look at it and you're like, wow, you're only using 10% of the system, but the major systems that help you, or the major functionalities that you wanted, or feature sets that you selected, are not even being utilized. So agreed. A champion user is crucial when it comes down to technology.
Now, Pat, I'm really curious. So from the consultation or the sales side of things, is this a conversation you think that you interact with a lot, where customers are wondering, do they know they need to identify a champion user, or do they have someone in mind for that? Or even who might be a good candidate?
Yeah,
Good question.
That's a great question. The answer is no, it's never really brought up in my conversations. Gotcha. And so I think it's definitely hard to pull it out. And I think it's, typically when you're talking to people, right, you're talking to the main decision maker, you're talking to the
Yep.
operators, right,
Yeah.
you're talking to the technical people. And so it's making sure that, out of those groups, who is going to be the champion user? And it may be by the time that, you decide that you want to move forward with the system, it's establishing that right then and there. So in that way, during implementation, that person is there the entire time and not kind of an afterthought after the initial system's been installed. So I think that might be a great call out. And again, you're right, that should be a question that we utilize moving forward.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, so part of this is take from this discussion here that we're having, let this be something that you start with. Think of that, who should that be in your building? Who should that person be? I will say from my experience, I've definitely talked to maintenance people. I've also spoken with directors of nursing as well. I think that there are different ways that the systems touch different roles at a facility. So it might not even be just one person. It could just be maintenance from the perspective of fixing something that breaks, nursing from the perspective of administering new pendants or turning a room over when someone else comes in. So
Right.
it doesn't necessarily have to be one specific role in a facility as well. So,
Perfect.
all right. Well, thanks, guys. So I think I'll take us to tip number 3 today, which is going to be identifying your external point of contact for technology assistance, also known as who are you going to call? And we're just going to put that right out there. Here's your chance. No?
Total
All right.
dadding it up.
Yep.
That's the Ghostbusters.
Dad move. There you go. Appreciate that. Going from tip 2 is your champion user. So that's kind of your on-site person that's right there ready to go. If they're not available or if this goes beyond something they need, who do you call, right? You need to raise that, shoot that flare up, raise that flag. You need some help. So identifying who it is that you call for the help that you need, and especially too, who do you call when you think about multiple systems, especially if you get to integrations as well. Who's responsible for what aspect? So it's a good question to ask yourself is if this system, I need assistance with it, who am I going to call? So what is the name of that company, that facility? Is the folks that installed it? Do they help you after they install, or do they just close up shop and say, thanks for the money, goodbye? Or is it the manufacturer? Do they provide assistance? So is it a remote-only assistance? Is it ability to get someone out? So something to consider is who do you call and what are they able to offer you? Another thing, too, that is becoming more commonplace, but 24/7 support. So, but that has a bit of, we'll say, room for interpretation. So for 24/7 support, does that mean there's a voicemail box and someone calls you back? Does it mean a human being answers it? Does that human being get to someone else? Can that person help you? So understanding that you might see that term a lot, but it is in your best interest just to ask, well, what does that mean necessarily? Because ultimately your responsibility is the care of the residents. Nick, I know you're itching here, so
Yeah,
tell me about some of those experiences.
24/7 support is fun. I don't know anybody who advertises 9 to 5 tech support. Yeah. Right?
It's not
so
a winning-
everybody
it's
out
not a
there is
winning
going to be
thing.
saying they have 24/7 support.
Right.
Doesn't mean they do. I've called other companies, tech support. We're trying to integrate certain systems with other systems on site, and we need help doing so. So we call tech support, and it's like 6 o'clock on a weekday, and they don't have any tech support after hours on weekdays, any tech support on the weekends, and I'm thinking this is worthless. This is no
Right.
good. It's going back to evaluating a system beforehand.
Right.
Check out tech support. Go ahead and if they're going to advertise a number, give it a call after hours and see who picks up and see how it goes, because it is vital. Nothing tends to break during business hours.
Right.
When you can, there's people available to help you address it. It's always at an inopportune time.
Yep.
It's always at night, on the weekend, right before some big event, right? That's when these things always seem to happen, and you need to be able to access that support easily and quickly and know that they're going to be there to help you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as you guys are looking online and you guys are evaluating a lot of the systems that may be out there, right, it's definitely taking a look, hey, are they updating their website, right? I think if you're looking at a website that has been updated since 2012, probably not the right partner that you want to look into. I also think that, making sure that 24/7, 365 is true, right? Like really, like you said, calling it, making sure they have tiered support, and just also focusing too on, is this company, is it regionally based or are they a national co-brand, right? Because the last thing that we want to have you guys go through is like calling a national cell phone carrier. We understand how difficult a lot of those are. You're on hold for 30, 45 minutes before you even get to someone. Like, that's not the experience that a lot of manufacturers want to offer, and it's making sure at the end of the day that as you guys are currently evaluating a lot of the systems out there, that you focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing too, so is as far as calling, so it's who answers, what they're able to do, but also to systems where remote troubleshooting is something that can be offered. So with some systems, you can actually be on the phone and get to a resolution. It doesn't require someone coming out. You don't need anyone else extra than someone that's on the other end of the phone at your building calling in. If that's something that can be done, that is again, go back to disruption, right? That minimizes your disruption. If you call someone and they can remotely access your system and solve the problem, that's great. And then you're done within 30 minutes or so, right? And then you're back to your day. You don't have to wait, it's going to be 2 to 3 days, get someone out, so.
Now, let's real time that, right? Not to interrupt you, but let's think about it. Today we see on the news, the coronavirus, right, and how it's going. And we have a lot of people now who are just shutting their doors down, or, you can't have in-person meetings. This is a great way, if your solution was to ever have a type of hiccup, right, by being able just to do a remote diagnosis and hopefully get that troubleshooted, like you said, within 20 or 30 minutes, versus having to wait for someone you don't really know coming in. Have they been in contact with anybody, right? That's just a great way to kind of override that and kind of bypass it, and really at the end of the day, get it troubleshooted with really no one involved, which is great.
Right, yeah, the minimal amount of people. I would say too, so as far as external points of contact, so when you're selecting a system, or even if you have an existing one, everyone does at this point, depending on the system, reach out and find out what they offer, because that can be another thing too when you're thinking long term as far as like truly relationships or partnerships. Is this someone that is invested in me when I'm investing in them? So do they want to see me succeed? A big part of vetting that out for a partnership and relationship is, do they have support, and what is that level of support, and what can be offered? Am I buying it from the guy with the van down the block, or you had mentioned, Pat, am I buying it from a national company that has certifications and stories that they can tell me, case studies, or from successful sites that they have? So pretty much just making sure that you know who you can call and that it's the right people to get you what you need. I will say one thing too is take the time, identify who it's going to be, get a sheet, make sure it's known for your staff. If something goes down, if it's this, then call this person. If that's what your issue is, call this person. Just take the couple minutes. Again, when it comes back to making sure you're operating smoothly and everyone's doing what they need to do, it'll minimize the difficulty that you might experience.
Right. And most manufacturers will have what we refer to as wallpaper or stickers, right, where you can kind of go and slap that on some head ends in your IT closet, so in that way, in case anything ever happens, they can do that.
Right. Especially if you have different systems in there from different companies, go ahead and label those systems with the tech support number for the respective company, so that 4 years down the road you remember who actually installed this, who you got this from, and best way to contact them. We talked about like 24/7 support, remote support as a way to quickly remedy those problems you face, but support goes further if it can't be remotely corrected. If it's not something that can be addressed over the phone, then you have to evaluate the actual boots on the ground, right? How quickly, what resources are available to actually get somebody here quickly and address the problem. And that's another big aspect of evaluating a company's support in the system you're putting in. How quickly can they respond in person to correct the problem that we have? So examples, evaluating their turnaround time, seeing what sort of network they have available, and evaluating average turnaround times, that sort of thing. Definitely a huge aspect. It may not be software related. It might be hardware related, in which you actually need someone out there with tools, taking things down, evaluating, troubleshooting, that sort of thing. So that's another huge component.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, I think if you were to reach out to a manufacturer and just ask, hey, where are your local distributors at? They should have a map, especially if they're well known, to make sure that they have every zip code covered or wherever they're going to have it. But they should be able to supply that type of detail for you. And if they don't, flag should go up.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to that. Then, so I would say, Nick, if you're good, let's take it to tip 4.
I'm good.
All right.
We're talking about avoiding tech failure, okay? And one of the best ways to do this is to schedule ongoing checkups, ongoing maintenance. So not everyone likes the example, but if you compare one of these technology systems to a car, we're all very familiar that a car needs to be maintained with oil changes and airing up your tires and that sort of thing. And these systems are no different. If you want it to operate at its peak functionality, right, you have to take care of it, and that will require a little maintenance. So perhaps one of the best things you can do to make sure your system is running smoothly for the longest amount of time it possibly can is to go ahead and opt into annual or biannual maintenance programs where somebody will actually come out, do a full health check of your system to ensure it's still operating as efficiently and appropriately today, years later, a year or 2 years later, as it was when it was first installed. So that is the most important thing I think you can do, other than individual on site amongst your staff, yourselves and your staff. Just monitoring the system. Have somebody come in, somebody from a manufacturer, from a distributor, who this is all they do. They know these systems best, and they can tell you, that everything's still operating the way it should. Another important aspect of that is code compliance. So oftentimes you'll need to be able to show some sort of AHJ, an authority having jurisdiction, a state inspector, for instance, that your nurse call system is operating as it should, that your access control or wander management, you need to be able to show them something other than just telling them that it's operating as it should.
Just
We're all good.
Push the pendant.
We're
Did
all
the pager
good.
go off?
Everything works.
Yeah.
You need to show them some sort of documentation. So bring
Right.
somebody in every year or 2 years, have them do a full health check on your system, provide you with that documentation you need. So not only can you turn it over to the authority that might be inspecting, but it also gives you peace of mind. It lets you know that this large investment we've made just a few years ago is still serving us correctly.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, as far as peace of mind goes, so it's not necessarily just peace of mind, too, for the operators or making sure that that investment is lasting and working the way that they wanted it to, but it's also confidence in the system from a staff and from a resident perspective. So if I need help and I push my button, am I getting help?
Right.
Because as soon as that confidence goes away, well then, families can get involved. It can get pretty ugly sometimes. But also too with the staff, if they don't believe that the system's working correctly, I've got the pager in back that's been going off for 10 minutes straight. I don't know. So I mean that's not good. You're right when you mention you invest this amount of money in this system that's supposed to take care of your needs, and if no one's going to use it because they don't have confidence in it. So that's the kind of peace of mind as well.
Right. It's
Yeah.
supposed to work for you, not be a
Right.
hindrance.
You're not supposed to work
or an
against it.
annoyance,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So-
agree.
Yeah, but I do think there are some systems out there too that we should definitely highlight for some of our viewers today too. It's systems that have built-in redundancies, right? They're doing their own system health checks. You have components that are checking in every 2 to 3 minutes, saying, "Hey, I'm here, I'm functioning, I'm alive, I'm operating." And then also just making sure that, hey, if there is something that comes up, do you have the ability to pull a maintenance report? Can you see that, hey, this device hasn't checked in 2 days? Well, that's not good, especially when you talk about a pendant, right? Or, hey, all of a sudden that it looks like there's maybe low power at this external door here on an access control system. Well, we definitely don't want that to happen. That means you can manually bypass that, right? So there are systems that should allow you to have built-in redundancies, making sure that you're getting these types of reports. But again, when it goes down to the annual service plans or extended maintenance plans, like you just can't beat sometimes a good boot on the ground trying to just do all those system checks. I know that there are some other manufacturers too where you can kind of ship out your server and they'll kind of do some manual upgrades to it. They'll send you a loaner. That means they'll kind of upgrade all of your different type of infrastructure, hardware, software, et cetera, and pretty much get you to the optimum premium spot in which it was first installed. And sometimes they even give you additional warranties when you do that as well. So just something else to kind of take in consideration as you guys are evaluating.
It's a good way to check your physical components, the physical equipment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of remote diagnostics that can be done,
Yep.
but a mag lock, for instance, that hang from door frames, doors,
those
if, door,
need to be
if
inspected.
door closers are not adjusted correctly, they
Yep.
can hit mag locks really hard and
Yeah.
occasionally jar wires loose. And you may not know that it's lost its delay egress alarm
Right.
until it's an issue.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cameras, for instance, I've seen scenarios, or I've been called in on scenarios where there has been an elopement, and they want to utilize this camera to see which way the resident went, and that camera's non-functional. We can't get
Flash
playback
screen.
on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, bring in a manufacturer rep, a distributor rep who knows what they're doing to actually evaluate the equipment, the actual
Yep.
hardwired pieces on site, so you can find out before there's an issue that something may not be
Yeah.
operating correctly. If it doesn't have that
Mhm.
self-alerting, that redundancy.
In your opinion, I know that there are manufacturers out there that require maintenance services or contracts every single year, and then there are some that are just optional. Like in your preference, what would you suggest for our
Opt-in.
viewers?
Opt-in.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, this is almost all of these systems are significant, capital expenditures, and that's a big investment. And you should probably, make sure it's maintained and that you're taking care of this big investment that should be taking care of you, right? You utilize it, you rely on it every day. So opt into those extended warranties, those service plans. There's a lot of benefits to them. Sometimes they're just seen as a cost, which we understand. As an individual consumer, I go to the store and I buy
Yeah.
something new, and they're like, "Do you want the extended warranty?" I'm like, "Nah."
It's you hit the
But
nail.
that's typically an inexpensive item. When you're
Right.
talking about some of these tech systems that are tremendously expensive,
Yeah.
you want to support that system and make sure that that you have everything you need moving
Right.
forward. So extended warranties and service plans are a great way to do that.
Well, and in some cases too, life safety. I mean, it's a dollar impact as well, but it's resident safety is
Yeah.
if some of them don't work, right?
Right, right. And some of those service plans, they can have things. We talk about getting people on site. That might be part of the service plan every year. Software updates. We all have cell phones, and occasionally you'll log in, right, and you'll have like operating system updates that need to be manually started. They
Yep.
don't just automatically update. So there's software updates that are part of those service plans. Team training. Training's another big one that we
Yeah.
haven't discussed, but if you're going to avoid tech failure, getting people on site, having systems evaluated, and training people how to use them properly, particularly with employee turnover. So having team training is another common aspect of those service plans. And then when it comes to team training, it doesn't necessarily have to be on site. So this is another important thing, is the ability to remotely assist people with their needs. That includes training, right?
Yeah, webinars, so they kind of meet you where you need to be. The flexibility of, can you get everyone in the room at the same time, or do you need to have a couple webinars where you'll get half your staff and half your staff, or is it better to have someone there showing I pull this here and that does that there, or is it just going to be good to do with a webinar, or if there's any like PDFs or some web portals or video links that they might be able to provide as well.
Right.
There's a lot of flexibility depending on what you need. Maybe you just need that little bit of a refresher. I've got those calls before. I know what I need to do, but I just don't remember how to start it.
Yeah.
And then you just guide them to that. And so maybe just a quick video can get them where they need to be.
You're spot on. I mean,
Yeah.
there are definitely systems out there where they want to make it easy, right?
Yep.
It's not easy pulling your staff away for half a day or a full day or multiple days. And so a lot of manufacturers today are really just trying to make sure at the end of the day that, hey, let's give them the ease of use. Let's give them a portal, right, that has all these videos. For staff onboarding, right? Staff training, give them 30 to 45 minutes. And then if for some reason that doesn't work out, or it does, I should say, and you have maybe just brain fog, you need to go back and look at a quick video, right? That would be a great solution as well.
Absolutely. Looking at time, let's get on to our final point in avoiding
Final one.
technology failure. And this is probably one of my favorites. This is standardizing your communities, standardizing on the technology equipment, the systems that go into your buildings across the board, corporate-wide, and how that can benefit you. So the first way that it can benefit you is that essentially standards management, if you're standardizing on a system, it typically results in reduced costs, both upfront and in the long run. If you're standardizing, you're going to have a cost reduction. I think everyone out there is probably familiar with utilizing group purchasing organizations and staying on contract with them in order to get better pricing, right? The same can happen with your technology systems, and that as it relates to manufacturers and purchasing them. Have you seen anything like that, Pat, where it's discounts, basically? It's not one building, but it's multiple. May not be right now, but it's 8 over the next 2 years,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and what
Yeah.
the manufacturer can do for them.
Yeah, great question. I mean, personally, yes, I'm fighting for our operators all the time. I mean, if all of a sudden they're saying, hey, listen, we have 15 buildings that, we realize are at the extent of their life, right? And we need to try to work on a cost savings plan. The answer is, yeah, I'm fighting on their behalf, saying what can we do to take out cost components, right? What can we do to do overall discounts on top of those GPO discounts, right, which are pretty substantial. Absolutely. That's definitely something that we want to make sure that we're focusing on. And there are a lot of manufacturers that are going to be out there that are going to want to do the exact same for you.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, from a replenishment standpoint, not even just the initial purchase of all the equipment, but the things that you're going to need, like your pendants, your access cards, a lot of those stuff that you might need to buy over time. If you're standardized, you're buying from one source. Typically, the more you buy from one person, the more they
Help
give you the
out.
discounts because they want to work with you, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
We talked earlier about, and I see this as I'm on the new construction side of things, and we're working on new buildings. If you have 10 different low voltage tech systems in your building and you're getting them from 6 different or 5 or 7 different distributors or manufacturers, who do we go to with a problem? And that's in your one building on the West Coast, and then you have another on the East Coast, right? Once you're a corporation and you have multiple buildings and you're selecting different systems for each one, it can get tremendously confusing on who to go to and who's going to support your system
Right.
5 years down the road. So this standardizing on the same nurse call system, Wander system, CCTV surveillance system can have tremendous benefits in servicing those systems. Who do we go to? We want to avoid technology failures. That's what we're talking about. And at the same time, we know that they're going to happen. So
Yeah.
then what? We talked about tech support and champion users. As someone who works in tech support, imagine having not one champion user at one building, but 15 across
Yeah.
15 different buildings because they're all working on the same system with the same system.
Music to my ears, Nick. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
You have a bench of 15 people to pull from, and some of them might even be just down the road. If you have a difficulty with
Regional.
you might have one facility here, and their champion user's not there. Well, down the road, you get someone with the same system. So, and that can also help too with we can call it about staff turnover, or if you want to move staff around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's less time for them to ramp up and learn it.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, especially if you're talking about growing organizations, right? They're going to have regional directors, regional maintenance, regional clinical, right? Who are all going to be going through all the different types of buildings and kind of talking through and knowing that you have a standardization, being like, oh, that system should be operating like that because it's not at the other 12 buildings. Great call out,
Right. So yeah, that is probably my favorite. Standardizing across a corporation's portfolio is probably the best thing you can do in order to ensure that these systems are working for you and they're not causing headaches. If we don't hear about them, that's probably the best scenario because that means it's working for you and you're not having a lot of problems with those systems. So standardizing, great way to save money and a great way to ensure the system's working for you and there's a greater understanding corporate-wide, communities-wide on how they should work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, too, from my experience, I know I've definitely gotten the occasional email here from someone saying, hey, we need help with this system. And I have to politely say, well, I'm not familiar with that one. It's not one we sold. Did you mean to me we reach out to someone else? And it has happened, because when you have an urgent need, you're going to act with urgency. But the difficulty is, if you're acting with urgency, are you getting to the right person that's going to help you?
Right.
So absolutely, making sure you all have the same things across the board is going to make sure that you reach out to that correct person that first time to make sure you get that resolution quickly.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned too about going to one manufacturer for multiple systems, right? I think that's a good call out to have, mainly just because it's one throat to choke. You know, it's real easy for a lot of different manufacturers to point the finger saying, hey, I installed a system. Oh, but because of the integration, it's not working, as compared to you going to one sole provider, right, who offers different systems. Well, guess what? That's not an excuse. We just got to make it work.
Right. It could be one manufacturer purchased through a distributor and installed by an installer. That can happen for multiple systems across multiple buildings. So if there is one throat to choke, if you're getting them all from one location, from one place, then you know, regardless of what system it is or which building it is across the country, we know who we're going to go to service that system.
You know who we're going to call?
We know who we're going to call. Yep.
One more time,
That's it.
huh?
Yep. Yep. And I think that's a great comfort to both, administrators at the community level, and then particularly to those at the regional and
Yeah.
corporate level.
Right.
Because that's one less headache they need to deal with.
Absolutely.
That is true.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Well, why we would like to say that tech failure is completely unavoidable, right? I mean, I know we just spent the last 50 minutes really kind of talking through a variety of different tips. There are always going to be times you're going to run into issues with your system technologies. So technology updates will continue to occur as technologies are consistently emerging. And when this happens, we're here to help you out, and we want to make sure that we're bridging the gap of today's current state of technologies as well as the future state. And so make sure you call Direct Supply. We can provide you some free consultation to help figure out what the best replacement systems are going to be, and we can also help you budget for new systems and negotiate pricing on your behalf. I know we covered a lot today, and so we actually created a guide with all the tips and information that we covered in today's webinar, and you can download this guide free of charge by visiting directsupply.com/technology solutions. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, right. 10 times fast now.
Yeah, make sure you guys visit the link. You guys will definitely appreciate it. Easy print off, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to really give you the tools and resources to be successful. Oh, I'm getting a page right now. I heard we have 600 questions. Is that correct right now?
600.
Man.
That's huge demand.
That's a small amount. I mean,
Do we have any?
We do have some. Thank you for your time and that great presentation. Okay. All of these tech systems come with a lot of paperwork, installation manuals, user manuals, product information sheets. Are there Cliff Note versions available for each one? Where can I find them?
Nick, do you want to start with that, being from the project management standpoint?
Yeah,
and handing
definitely
thick packets
ask
out?
ask for the Cliff Notes.
Nick is notorious for taking the book, opening it up, page one. No.
130-page operator's manual is what you want to look for when you have a problem.
Yeah, right.
So many of these manufacturers do have, like the
User guide?
yeah. But the abbreviated version.
Oh,
I want to
sure.
say it's the
Yeah,
something
yeah.
for dummies, that whatever they put out there. But
Oh, sure.
It's the Cliff
Yeah, yeah.
Notes, and it'll allow you to really avoid a lot of the stuff you probably won't encounter, and just focus on that'll most likely affect you on a day-to-day basis. So definitely request it if it isn't supplied to you, and then two, if the system has been selected and unfortunately all they have are large operator and user manuals, you'll probably want to create your own short guide.
Yep.
A little flow chart of what to do based on what you're trying to do, and that can be pretty short too. It's a good way to also help your backup champion user, should you need. So definitely, if they don't have it readily available, seek to make one of your own. It'll help you
Yeah.
and your backup.
I would say ask. When you figure it out, even just making like a simple, document with this bullet pointed 1, 2, 3, 4, even that, or screenshots. Yeah, create them if you don't have them. Ask how it's done, or I know I've put together a few things here and there. I've been known to do it, so just ask. It's great it's amazing to see what you'll get if you just, ask, and people will generally work with you there, so.
For sure. And don't forget to think about videos too on the manufacturer's websites as well. Yes, they give you a nice thick packet because they have to, but just know at the end of the day, majority of the issues that you may potentially face are probably publicly posted, and just making sure that you can go and review that, and maybe just a quick 1 or 2 minute video on how to resolve it.
Right. Okay.
So then, earlier was mentioned about technology integrations. Why are those important to us?
So integrations, and I'll address it, and obviously you guys can hop in whenever
Go
you
for
want. Integrations, I think, are key. When we start to focus on technology and what that technology roadmap looks like, it's making sure that we're streamlining the approach of staff notifications, right? Earlier I talked about that 20-pound, work belt that, staff is constantly using, or caregivers. And so by being able to integrate it, what we're able to do is really provide you a sole platform with a variety of different things. Maybe that's sole auditing, maybe that's sole one device for multiple notifications for nurse call, access control, wander management, right? And so that's a great way in order to ensure that with one device, you're also getting all the detailed information to follow that as well.
Yeah, I would say, just in a word, that's how the magic happens, right? Technology, when it works, especially with multiple systems working together, that's what magic is in real life. If you have someone that's at your front door and, the camera can see who it is, and by facial recognition, page someone or open the door, right? That is great when it works, right? So I think,
Right.
Integrations are important, not only for like a reporting aspect, like say you have a hardwired system, you want to feed it through your wireless nurse call so you can get the reporting regardless of what part of the building or where did it come from. It's all coming to you in one place. But also, too, when they work together, you can really make some pretty cool stuff happen, which can, lead to families choosing you for where their loved ones go, if it's a very forward-thinking or kind of smooth or seamless experience.
Yeah, and I think just to piggyback off of that, the main focus is staff efficiency. Again, we talk about staff turnover, right? And it's, some operators I talk to consider efficiencies based on the number of steps that their caregivers take. If we can eliminate 10 steps, that's an improved efficiency. And so by making sure that we can have multiple solutions in one, that is an efficiency that is created that will hopefully help, as you face those types of hurdles with staff turnover.
We see integrations on every project. It is probably the most challenging aspect of the project, right? So making sure that it's an approved and certified integration before you go ahead and purchase it, and that it exists somewhere else that you can go and see, you can get references and find out how it's working for them. It might be Wander and Access and Nurse Call, these different systems going together. And then in the future, hopefully, there's less integrations because there's one common platform operating those multiple systems.
Yep.
So you're not really putting two together. It's just a common head end or server operating access control and surveillance and intercom.
Yeah.
They're all going back to the same spot.
Agreed. You bring up a good point, references. Nothing speaks volumes more than references, being able to go to the site and take a look at it, because I can't tell you how many times we go to trade shows, right, and we're evaluating different types of technology systems that are out there. Oh, we can do this, we can do that. Great. Where's an example? Still working on that, right? So making sure that, you do have some room to be able to go see it in person is great.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that is all the time we have today. Thank you for attending today.